Hi everybody, it's me Jill and welcome to Jill Informed. This is the recap of The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, Season 3, Episode 11, High Stakes and Friendship Breaks. The show opens this week by showing us that it is San Diego, day 29. Kidding, it's day 2. It just feels like day 29. How could it just be day 2? I already feel like I've been in San Diego for the majority of my life. The champagne over the head was just yesterday? Anyway, it is the next morning. It's like 10:20. Heather's just getting up. Jen is just waking up. Side note, Jen has chosen a bedroom. When did that happen? I thought Jen chose the Sprinter van. Remember, she took a nap in there, and I was sure that all she was doing was like using maybe Heather's room to get her makeup on and stuff. But for the rest of the time, she was going to be living out of that damn Sprinter van. She was not going to give Angie K the satisfaction. Meredith and Dana are in the kitchen, I guess making breakfast. I don't know. I think the only women that actually prided themselves on cooking are the Jersey ladies. I don't think anybody here or in Beverly Hills would be like, let me whip up some eggs a la française. Anyway, they're in the kitchen, and then Lisa, Angie K, and Whitney are out by the pool. Lisa is still grousing about how Jen treated her on the boat. She was mean and dismissive. She says, "I've been a really good friend to Jen." We do get a flashback to Lisa being a good friend to Jen, kind of being the only person that was like sticking up for Jen at different times, trying to play peacemaker between Jen and Meredith when that whole thing went down with Brooks and the Instagram war, outing him and stuff like that. That was ugly. So then Whitney says, "No one is trying to turn their back on Jen. We're just trying to say that the way you treat us hurts, and she won't hear it." Wait, does Whitney have a problem with Jen? It is so hard to keep it straight because everyone is literally in a little something with everybody else on the show. I can't even remember what's going on between Whitney and Jen. So Angie K goes, "She doesn't even remember pushing you, Lisa, or anything that happened on the boat." Whitney, "Well, then that's a problem. Much like Heather doesn't remember that we're in a fight." Okay, there it is. The awkward segue into talking about herself and her issue with Heather. Maybe not as smooth a transition as Whitney would have liked, but she got us there. So Angie K said, "I know that when we were in the hot tub at your house, you talked about taking a friend break from Heather. So how's that going for you guys?" Then we get a flashback. For as many times as we are referring back to the scene in Whitney's hot tub, how come we never saw it at the time? We're only seeing it in flashbacks, but like in hundreds of flashbacks. Whitney, "Honestly, I'm not even sure she's aware." Angie K, "She doesn't even notice your absence in her life?" So Lisa heads inside to get ready for the day. I guess they're going to the beach. It's a little after 11. When she walks through the kitchen, Heather's in there now. And then I don't know where Meredith and Dana went. They just went to go get ready for the day, I guess. And so it's just Lisa and Heather in the kitchen. And Lisa's like, "So how are you doing?" And Heather goes, "I'm just trying to figure things out from last night. Where am I? What day is it? What happened? Who are my friends? Who are my enemies?" And then both Lisa and Heather agree that the dinner last night was horrible. Not the food, just the company. Meanwhile, Jen walks gingerly into the primary bedroom. Side note, Jen walks like Jennifer Coolidge in The White Lotus. It's like every day she's walking on high heels that she's just trying for the first time. So my first thought is, oh no, did Jen block out the whole part where Angie didn't give her the best room? Because Jen forgot a lot of things from yesterday. But no, she's just there to give Angie K a big hug and apologize yet again. Back in the kitchen, Lisa says, "I can tell you and Jen are not in a good spot." And Heather's like, "Well, I could tell that everyone was trying to point out that Jen was talking shit about me behind my back." And Lisa goes, "She wasn't though. She wasn't." And Heather goes, "Then why was everybody calling her a flip-flopper?" Lisa, "Because she was flip-flopping about her feelings. She wasn't being honest about them." Okay, Back in Angie's bedroom, Jen is still trying to push the narrative that pouring the champagne on her head was just some good, clean fun. And that she totally thought she could do that with Angie, her friend of 20 years. And Angie said, I know. I mean, you know I'm sensitive. And I think that's one of the things that you love about me is that you know I'm a good person. And I hate that that conversation even came out in front of other people. Okay, what are you talking about? First of all, being a sensitive person doesn't necessarily mean you're a good friend. But mostly, you're sorry that it came out in front of others. You're the one that said it in front of others. This whole thing about paying for the birthday party. Like, Jen only knows about the time that you said it in front of her and the other ladies, but does she know that you said it to your husband while the camera was right there earlier as well? So I'm not sure we can pawn this one off as just being in the moment. I just blurted something out because I happen to think it was very, very calculated. Angie K. I feel bad. I have a lot of love and respect for you and your family. And even after that, you acknowledged that I'm the only person who was still there for you. And Jen's like, it's because I love you. Angie, I love you too. In her confessional, Angie said, Jen has a pattern. She apologizes and then expects to move forward like nothing. Okay. I mean, I think you're kind of doing that now too. You apologized for accusing her of not paying for Sharif's birthday party on camera when you know she's got all kinds of other legal stuff going on. And you kind of expect with just a, I love you and respect you and your family to have that kind of just wash away what you did too. So, pot, meet, kettle? Back in the kitchen, Heather says to Lisa, it's important to move forward, but I think we have toxic relationships with Jen. All of us do. I don't want to abandon her at possibly the lowest point in her life. I didn't even want to come on this trip. Things were weird with Whitney. She was always my go-to girl, and we haven't even spoken yet on this trip. I haven't spoken to her at all, and she didn't invite me to the hot tub party. Lisa, what do you want to happen? What are you hoping for today? And Heather said, today I want to go knock on Jen's door and sit down and say, last night was really rough and I love you, but we have a toxic relationship. It's fueled by really fun times with a lot of alcohol, followed up by really sad times with a lot of tears and anger and violence. Lisa, that sounds honest. And Heather goes, everyone accuses me of just keeping it light and not going deep with feelings. But guess what? If I did that, I'm not sure Jen and I would still be friends. Okay, so the ladies have changed into their beautiful beach looks. And they are ready to get in the Sprinter van and head to the beach. In Lisa's confessional, she says, I'm definitely ready for a beach day. I mean, I know it's not going to be like Turks and queso. I said queso. Oh my gosh. Take two. It's definitely not like Turks and Caicos. Take three. I was hoping for Turks and Caicos with white sand beaches, but it's better than the frigid cold. Don't use that, okay? So, of course, Bravo uses it. I think the kiss of death as a housewife would be to tell production, please don't use that last piece because that's just flagging it as something that they're definitely going to use now. Had she said nothing, they may have just cut out the outtakes, you know? Okay, so when they get to the beach, they meet the cruise directors, John and Kristen, who have set up a beach day picnic and some games for the women. Apparently, the CEO of Fun was not privy to this information, which is funny to me because it seems like it would be actually part of her duties. But no, wasn't even told about it. In her confessional, she goes, games? Can't we just relax on the beach and have a margarita? Okay, guys, first competition is sandcastle building. They have to be in teams. I don't exactly remember how the captains were chosen, but Heather was the captain of Team Blue, and Whitney was the captain of Team Yellow, which for some reason, on my screen at least, looks like Team Olive Green. Heather, I guess she chose Jen and Angie K to be on her team. She said because they were the co-hostesses and she knows that they're scrappy and fighters. And Whitney has everybody else. Heather, as the captain, is trying to strategize with the sandcastle building with her team, while Angie K is trying to put lipstick on Heather. Lipstick that Heather didn't ask for, nor does Heather want. She seems to be barely tolerating it. And then Angie, okay, let me just say this. It's Angie's lipstick, which she just put on her own lips, then tried to rub all over Heather's lips, and then immediately went and rubbed it on Jen's lips. So, if there's a cold sore outbreak, we know the source. That's all I'm trying to say. All right, guys, they have 5 minutes to build a sandcastle, and Team Heather, Team Blue, has chosen to make theirs look like an evil eye. Good strategy. It seemed like they were hustling to the water. You know, they had Angie K running back and forth for buckets of water. They seemed to be working on it. The other team was just very haphazardly making just a regular, castle. So there wasn't a lot of forethought or planning going into it, but they did have an extra person, sort of. I mean, Meredith was getting the water for them. And, you can't make the CEO of Fun run. For Meredith, it was a bit of a stroll to the shore, scoop up some water, and a stroll back. Anyway, what happened at the end of the 5 minutes is Whitney goes over to the evil eye and just stomps it with her feet before the judging could happen. Okay. I mean, I guess none of it really mattered anyway. There didn't seem to be much of a punishment for that because 1 second later, John is announcing the next challenge. It's a gunny sack race. You had to go around a cone and come back again. At the end of that, Jen knocks Whitney over. And Dana seems to have a problem with that in her confessional. What a cheater. I wonder what else she's cheating. Just kidding. Just kidding. First of all, no, you're not. And secondly, did you see what Whitney did to their sandcastle? So, either the rules are, nobody cares about any of this and it's all for fun, or we're going to hold everybody accountable for all the things that they've done to the other team. My vote is for the former. John, we have one more game. And then somebody goes, no, we're good. I don't know who it was, or I want to give them credit. Anyway, that does not deter John. And Meredith Marks could take some notes about being the CEO of Fun. You do not let anything knock you off your game, literally. Because the next game is bubble soccer. Yeah, everyone is in these, bubble things. That game, I don't know if there was a time limit to it, but it lasted, I'm going to estimate 41 seconds. Maybe that's too long. 22 seconds. This was Dana's time to shine, guys. Dana is frustrated athlete or something, because she was in it to win it. She immediately knocked Heather over, then she knocked over Jen, and then she just kicked the ball into her goal. So game over. John pronounces the olive green team the winner. I don't think there were any trophies or anything. So now we're sitting in lounge chairs, which is what Meredith wanted to do all along. Heather says to Angie, so what's your impression of this girls' trip? And Angie says, well, the first day I called home. I called Sean and I said, I want to come home. Dana, yeah, me too. I called my husband too. And I'm like, I want to go. I don't think anybody asked you, Dana, but thanks for sharing. Angie. And then this morning I wake up and everybody's fine with each other. Yeah, it's called Housewives, Angie. Look it up. Watch an episode, maybe. Heather goes, well, you were holding hands with Jen in the van. I was like, wait, what did I miss? Angie, oh, she came to my room, my room, the primary bedroom. Yeah, remember when I jumped on the bed and said, welcome to my room? Yeah, Jen came to my room this morning and we talked. And that's why I announced it when we sat down in the van. We get a flashback to Angie saying, I just want everyone to know that your co-hostesses have reconnected. Oh, good. I was so worried. And then to Jen, she says, thanks for coming to my room and being my bitch. Yeah. What a sensitive soul. That's how you know she's a good friend. No, I'm not mad at it. I think it's hilarious. Jen has to grovel and be her bitch because she poured champagne. Yet she outed Jen about not paying for Sharif's birthday party in front of everybody and made a whole big, huge stink about everything she had to pay for and that she had to be on her hands and knees and scrub and that it was filthy. That's some underlying shade there that somehow Jen and her friends were sloppy pigs or something. I don't know. I didn't like any of it. I didn't like it at the time, and the more I thought about it, I liked it even less. A friend just doesn't do that. And don't tell me Jen's worse. Yeah, Jen's probably way worse. But if you're going to call yourself her good friend, then act like a friend. Otherwise, don't. I would never call myself a good friend of Jen Shah. I'm more like in the Heather camp. I could have fun with Jen, but I'm not throwing a party for her husband and then paying for it and expecting her to pay me back when I think she probably won't. That's kind of on you, Angie K. All right, so now Dana goes, let's get ready for surfing. Immediate thought. Good Lord. Please tell me I don't have to sit through another Housewives lesson on surfing. Surfboards on the sand, instructor laying on your tummy, swimming, showing them how to stand into a squat position, get their balance. Oh my God, I've never been surfing in my life. I could teach that lesson at this point. That's how much Housewives I've watched. Not proud of that, people. Right away, Heather goes, oh, I'm not up for that, babe. I'm going to sit this one out. So Whitney says to Jen, are you surfing? Jen, I'm going to go eat a cheeseburger. So then Heather's like, Lisa, are you going? Lisa says no. And Heather goes, then you want to go get a bite to eat? Oh yeah, definitely. I'm starving. Angie K clearly does not want to go surfing. She wants to be with the girls who are going to the restaurant. But, Bravo's making her surf. You just know it because she is complaining the whole way. Side note, I don't think Angie K likes how she's being treated in general by production. And rumor has it that she tried to sue Bravo after they dropped her as a full-time housewife. Apparently, and I didn't really know this, but I guess she was under the impression she was hired as a full-time housewife. Maybe she was originally supposed to be. And she thought that Bravo was going to reimburse her for these very expensive confessional looks. But that never happened when they made her just friend of. They weren't paying for any of these expenses. So she sued them, and that led to her permanent termination. So I hope you weren't looking for Angie K in season 4. She's a diva, that one. Now I'm more sure than ever that she insisted on having that party for Sharif just to show off her new house on camera and stuff like that. It was this was her introduction. I'm on TV. Here's my beautiful home. And I'm going to have a wonderful party. I'm going to look like a great friend. I'm believing that way more than I believe that Jen asked her to host the party or something. Anyway, let's get back to the beach because we've got an instructor laying on a surfboard in the sand. Meredith, to her credit, she knew she wasn't supposed to be part of the lunch. So she didn't complain about it, but all she did was sit in her lounge chair and scroll through her phone. She's like, no. I'm not doing that. Meanwhile, Lisa, Heather, and Jen are heading into a restaurant. So I don't know what Jen was doing. Was she on her phone? But the server came and Lisa and Heather ordered just a whole bunch of shellfish that later Jen's like, what did we get? And tells them that she can't eat any of that. She's allergic. And Heather goes, are you really allergic? And she goes, yeah, I'll die. Side note, Jen, if you're that allergic to shellfish, why would you not make sure that you ordered your own food? Didn't you earlier say you were going to have a cheeseburger? You should have ordered a damn cheeseburger. Because now she's acting like, oh, well, okay, I guess I have nothing to eat. And they're going, well, you can eat the bread. Okay. So she's picking at the bread. You're a grown woman. Order food that won't kill you. Anyway, they of course talk about yesterday and the boat ride. Lisa says, on the boat it was uncomfortable because, I thought you and I were fine. And then you kind of went off on me. So Jen's like, you know what? You and I are fine, Lisa. And I'm sorry. I think I was just bugged because I'm not a mean person and you know that. So I would not just dump champagne over someone's head, even though I did just dump champagne over someone's head. But I'm a good person. So when I do that, you should know it's a joke. She didn't say all that, but that's basically the gist. Obviously, I was trying to lighten it up. No, it was obvious to no one. And then, you didn't give me a chance. We didn't talk about it. I don't know, whatever. I'm sorry if I was mean to you because you're over there with Angie. Oh my God, why the backpedaling all the time? Jen, just say, you know what? It hurt my feelings. You know me a lot better than you know Angie K. If you didn't think it was right that I poured champagne on her head, why didn't you come and talk to me and ask me why I did it? It hurt my feelings that you went to comfort her. I feel like when you keep backing off of being totally honest with somebody, that's when you leave everything up to interpretation. Lisa. Jen, I'm going to be super honest here. You're my friend, and I care about you a lot. But I will temper myself when I'm around you to make sure you feel good. But yesterday, you wouldn't even say you were my friend. Jen. Okay, well, I was mad at Angie. I'm sorry. And Lisa goes, and I take the brunt of that. So Heather goes, we need to talk about everything that went down yesterday, especially with us at dinner, because it ended with you giving me an ultimatum about Angie Harrington. And she is a quality human being that I am not willing to give up. If it wasn't for her, we wouldn't all know that Lisa gave a blowjob to a hideous troll that lives under a bridge. So Heather goes, do you think that our relationship is toxic? And Jen said, yes, because at my house, when I told you what the Harringtons did, I asked you, are you okay with what Angie Harrington did? And will you continue to be friends with her? Heather, am I unclear about how I feel about what she did? All right, this is Heather's sticking point because she has been clear that she thinks it's horrendous what they've done. She thinks it's terrible. She thinks it's indefensible. However, this is what's unclear to everybody, Heather. You are perfectly happy to remain friends with her and Chris because you have fun with her. She's a good time and all that. This is just my interpretation. I think people are struggling with how are you okay being friends with that kind of person? Now, if my interpretation is correct, the question begs to be asked, how are you all okay with being friends with Jen Shah? Somebody who swindled the elderly, or whose company did, or was led to do it, or turned a blind eye when it was happening, or something. She runs this company. I don't think Jen is the most intelligent person in the world, but she's savvy enough to get this business going. And this is like Teresa Giudice syndrome. Maybe you're not the mastermind, but you are definitely comfortable turning a blind eye to certain things. And that's what I think happened with Jen. I don't think Jen totally knew what was going on or how this worked, how giving the information of these, mostly senior citizens, how giving their information to companies that were, less than on the up and up, say. I don't think you totally knew how that would hurt these people, but I think you were content to not delve into it too deeply. And, that doesn't make you a great person. So I don't know if Heather's defense is, we're all friends with Jen, but you have a problem with Angie H. I don't know. What Jen says is, I feel like you flip-flopped. You didn't hold her accountable. Heather, seamlessly deflects by saying, how do you think I felt hearing that 2 days later you were at a hot tub party at Whitney's talking shit about me? Okay, but that's 2 days later and it really doesn't have anything to do with you not holding Angie H accountable. Anyway, Jen says, I didn't, Heather. Side note, first of all, Lisa told you that Jen wasn't talking shit about you in the hot tub, that she was just getting real with her feelings. Second, is anyone else surprised that Lisa Barlow got in Whitney Rose's hot tub? I feel like a true germaphobe wouldn't want to be within 10 feet of a hot tub, especially Whitney's. No offense. Let's just say I hope there's a lot of like chlorine or whatever needs to be in that swirling soup. Oh my God. Then of course, we get another flashback to the hot tub scene. Why didn't you just show us all the hot tub scene? How did that get cut? If we're referring back to it in so many flashbacks. Anyway, like I said, we do see another little part of that hot tub scene. And yeah, I mean, it was a little trash talky. Not gonna lie. Maybe 70% feelings, 30% trashing Heather. Lisa, can I just say something? I want you in my life and I want you in my life. And I just want to not have to worry about what the is going to happen today. Now Heather and Lisa are both telling Jen that not knowing how she'll behave is terrifying and toxic. Jen says it's because Heather flip-flops so much that she should be wearing flip-flops. In Heather's confessional, she said, Lisa and I are holding Jen accountable, and I can see on her face that she doesn't like it. Well, you don't like it either, Heather. I can see that on your face. I mean, does anybody really like being held accountable for something? No. But if I've learned anything this season, it's that Heather can't take blame very easily. So Heather said, I love you, Jen, but I didn't want to come on this trip. It went from co-hosts to champagne in the face. Then it escalated and escalated and escalated. Then it came at Lisa. Then it circled around and came back at giving me an ultimatum. Jen, I didn't give you an ultimatum, which is true. Because that night, Jen said, this is not an ultimatum, but I need to know where you stand. And yes, she said, I don't want you to be friends with Angie H. But it was never, and if you are, you can't be my friend, or, you know, I mean, maybe it was implied, okay. But it definitely wasn't a her or me. It was not laid out like that. And then Jen says, I almost committed suicide. I tried to, okay? Because your friend is heartless and decided to drag me and my entire family because Omar and Sharif weren't going to have a mom and Sharif wasn't going to have a wife. Okay, guys, aside from this being extremely upsetting to hear, in fact, I'm thinking right now, maybe episode 3 or so, where Sharif said that he will never understand people that do this kind of thing, troll others on the internet, because you never know how it will affect someone and they might hurt themselves. I am now looking at that scene in a whole new light. But also, this is making me think that account was created to troll Lisa, was it not? Because Angie Harrington had the issue with Lisa. In fact, didn't have an issue with Jen. I was trying to figure out why they would have even called it Shaw Exposed. And the best thing I could come up with was that stupid elf on the shelf 52-year-old Chris Harrington thought, oh, let's use the Shaw name because she's in the news right now. I thought he was just being opportunistic. So now I'm wondering, how does Lisa feel about Heather's loyalty to Angie Harrington and not being able to give up Angie Harrington? I understand that Lisa and Heather aren't friends. So maybe she just thinks, of course, Heather's going to be friends with her. I don't know. But I mean, here, like, they're trying to, resolve their differences. And I can't imagine Lisa thinks it's cool that Heather's friends with Angie H. Anyway, in her confessional, Jen tells us that she had locked herself in the bathroom one night after it got to be too much with, I guess, not just the account, but of course, all the comments and stuff. I mean, people are ruthless and horrible to each other when they can do it in an anonymous way. And it just makes me feel like there's a lot of lonely, sad people who are hurting enough that they want to hurt others. I don't know. It's too prevalent. Anyway, she locked herself in the bathroom to the point where Sharif got so scared he had to break down the door and he took her to the hospital. And she said she was in the hospital for 2.5 days. Now, I don't believe that she did anything and I don't believe that she took anything. I think this was all that she was in this mental state where she was contemplating it. So, as you might imagine, that kind of shuts everybody up. Or I should say it made Heather pause for a second because then she said, I get it. I love you. I have been ride or die. It's not about that. And Jen goes, do you know how hard it was for me to even talk to you? You hurt my feelings. And Heather goes, I get it. And you need to recognize the cycle. So Jen gets up. Oh, I need to recognize the cycle? You all have cycles. Maybe not so much anymore. She's like, it's my fault. She walks away. In Lisa's confessional, she's like, the conversation is over. Jen just dropped something so heavy, Bob the builder couldn't pick it up. Okay. So Jen went to like another table to cool off. And Heather says to Lisa, listen, I'm not going to pile on a friend, but I feel like she's once again upping the ante. So heavy. Federal indictment. Suicide. I don't know how I feel about that. I think if she really did attempt suicide, and it sounds to me like she came very close, I don't think it's easy to talk about. And I think to assume somebody is telling you as a way of manipulating, I think that's pretty cold. I just wouldn't be able to assume that. Not unless I didn't believe her altogether, but I do. And I think that nobody really wants to talk about it. It's painful to talk about. So I don't think you can so cavalierly use it as a weapon. Maybe that makes me naive. I don't know. This is how I choose to believe most people are. Anyway, Heather and Lisa decide that, they can work through their differences because that's nothing compared to this. And Heather's like, listen, let's support our friend while recognizing her toxic behavior and being able to vent to each other about it. In a weird way, that's not a bad plan. Particularly now with what Jen's going through, just with the trial and stuff. I think it's not a bad plan to say, okay, she's our friend and she's hurting and we can treat her that way, but we're not going to forget that also there's big stuff we need to work on because our relationship with her is toxic. But while all this other stuff is going on, let's just vent to each other about it. I sort of think that's a healthy plan. I don't think that's talking about her behind her back. I think it's sort of a healthy way to, release your own frustration and not, pile on somebody who's already got a lot going on. Okay, then Jen comes back to the table and Lisa says, listen, Jen, I had no idea. I learned new stuff today, like about why you went to the hospital. And nobody wants you to feel that way. And Jen goes, I am done. Lisa's like, okay, I know, we know. So Heather's like, okay, let's go. And Jen goes, please, what do I have to say? When I finally kill myself, everybody will be like, oh, she was telling the truth? All right, well, I don't like that. That was manipulative. So maybe I'm a little bit wrong about Jen. Anyway, they now just all get in the Sprinter van. And right away, Lisa sits next to Jen and hugs her or puts her head on her shoulder. In the other van, the ladies have finished surfing and they talk about what a wonderful afternoon they had. Yes, that was so fun. Oh, I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to leave either. They're all feeling reflective and quiet. And Whitney says, yeah, I don't think I got in a quiet place until I was with just the four of you. Bling, bling. There are just three other people there with you, Whitney. Unless you mean the driver. So Angie K said, I was sitting next to Heather on the beach, and I really hope that you're able to talk to her. Sure you are, Angie K, because you want another explosive dinner. Whitney goes, Heather is my good friend, and I love her. In her confessional, she says that she really only sees two pathways out of this right now with Heather. Either I sweep it under the rug and forget about it, or Heather is going to have to see that she hurt me. Okay, so that group gets back to the house first. And they're all talking about how they're starving. Yeah, this whole thing didn't make sense to me that those three went to lunch while the others surfed. Like, I could see if we had those three go have a drink while the others surfed so that everybody could eat together. But it seems weird. So now the others are starving. But really, all they talk about is making coffee. I think Dana offers to make coffee. Wait, are they out of water or something? Something weird's going on, because then Whitney says, well, all we need is wine. And then Angie K suggests making coffee with wine. And if Angie K didn't make me nauseous before, she does now. Yay. Oh my God. Okay, so Whitney is hosting a Marilyn Monroe party tonight. You know, she loves a theme party. And Whitney has wigs for everyone. All they have to worry about is their outfits and their makeup. Angie K said, well, it better not be a cheap wig. Yes, we know. You are an expensive lady. That's just coming out in the press now. And Whitney said, oh, believe me, they're all cheap. So everyone kind of laughs. And then we cut to the other Sprinter van. And the vibe is a bit darker in general. Starting with the fact that it appears to be nighttime now. So what the hell happened? You guys ate lunch and got in a van, and then it turned dark out. The others were surfing all day, and they got home before you, and it was still daylight. I'm confused by the timeline, but it is dark out. But also the music is dark, and Jen is crying. Heather's got her hand on her knee, and no one's really talking. Finally, Heather asks Jen for a hug, and they do hug. And they lighten the mood. I don't know, they make a joke about something. I think the Marilyn Monroe party. And they decide that they are going to rally for Marilyn. Okay, so now we see all the Monroes. Some, more on point than others. But all in all, everyone was a good sport. And honestly, I think it's a funny twist that it's not just a night in, but that they actually have to go to a restaurant dressed like that. A charcuterie restaurant, no less. Whitney tells us that they only serve charcuterie, something you could easily throw together yourself at home. How fun! All right, so they sit down at the table at the restaurant, and the two groups ask each other how their day was. How was the surfing? And we get some flashbacks. Does it surprise anyone that Whitney's good at it? She's pretty athletic, and she's a snowboarder. I know it's not the same thing, but I think her balance is better, maybe, let's just say. Angie K fell off immediately. Dana might have been good. I don't really remember. But they all said they had fun. And then they asked about the lunch. And Heather said, well, lunch was a lot like our relationships. It was hard. There were highs and lows. Whitney, do you feel like you got anywhere? Was it good? There's silence. And then finally Jen said, we're not going to go there because it was way too personal and way too emotional. And Whitney goes, with the three of you or you two? Pointing to Heather and Jen. And Jen goes, the three of us. Whitney doesn't really say anything. Nobody says anything. And Jen goes, okay, Whitney, you want to know? Because you're digging and digging. You want to know what was said? Whitney's like, I'm not digging. I'm asking. Jen, I told them that I tried to commit suicide. Whitney's like, especially because, look, this was not exactly fair to Whitney. Because all she was digging for was to find out if you and Heather worked things out, because Heather seems to not be willing to work things out with her. That's all. In Whitney's brain, all roads lead back to her and Heather not giving her, the respect she deserves. So if Heather were to have made up with Jen, that would have pissed Whitney off. And that's really all Whitney cared about. Whitney wasn't digging or prying into the lunch for any other reason. That's why she asked, was Lisa involved? Was it all three of you or just you two? That's what she really wanted to know. But Jen just attacked. Look, Jen is all kinds of raw right now, and I get that. But I felt like it came out of nowhere to me. And she's pissed. She's pissed at Whitney. Jen goes, since you're so inquisitive, I have a question for you. Why did Heather keep saying, Jen, you talked all this shit about me in Whitney's hot tub? So now I think Jen thinks that Whitney told Heather what she said. I don't know. Whitney goes, we had a conversation where we were agreeing, Jen, that we wanted to talk to Heather. And Jen goes, then why don't you tell Heather how you felt? Because we're pretty much putting all the feelings on the table right now. Basically, Whitney says she already talked to Heather or tried to talk to Heather about her feelings. And Heather said, yeah, we did. And I thought we were good. I didn't know there was more to discuss. But I'm still hearing about it, so, go on. And Whitney's saying, it's because you don't hear me. Heather's like, okay, so there's no resolve? Whitney, every time I try to tell you how I'm feeling, you deflect, get defensive, and you leave. She's not wrong. Heather goes, well, tell me now, because I feel like you're the source of a lot of my conflict with other people. And Whitney goes, no, you put me in the middle as the source, because when you are in turmoil, you rope me into it. Heather, so the source is me? Whitney tries to use the example of last night when Jen was finally telling Heather that she was hurt when she got to the auditions and she saw that Angie H was there. And Heather said, oh, because she was dressed identically with Whitney, which was, of course, a thinly veiled way of saying, Whitney was all dressed like her. Are you mad at her? In that night, Whitney's like, it's not about me. So Whitney's using that as the example right now of how you're roping me into this because you got uncomfortable with the questions from Jen, which makes sense, except you guys, Jen tells Whitney, you better be very careful because that's not what happened. Yes, it is. That's what happened. It just happened yesterday. And Jen, your memory is not the most reliable. Well, thank God Lisa sees what's happening here right now. In her confessional, she said, if whatever's being said doesn't fit Jen and Heather's narrative, they'll deny it and have the problem be you. And so I think what's happening right now is this is Jen just blindly defending Heather, even though it goes against herself in a way. Of all people, Jen should have said, yeah, that's true. That is what you did last night. I was telling you I was hurt that you had invited Angie and you tried to make it about Whitney showing up in the same outfit as Angie. So now Heather says that she would never do or say anything to hurt Whitney and that she never has. And so she asks the table, have you ever seen me do anything or say anything to hurt Whitney? And Whitney goes, Heather, look at me. Heather, look at me. Heather will not look at her. Heather insists on looking at everybody else at the table but Whitney. And she says, no, I would like to know. Have I ever said otherwise? Whitney, see, she's roping everybody in. This is my point. Whenever I try to speak, you cut me off and deflect. Heather, oh, the floor is yours. Okay, so this is the other thing that Heather does. She gets very sarcastic and dramatic and passive-aggressive, tries to make Whitney feel dumb and put on the spot too, right? Okay, the floor is yours. All eyes are on you, Whitney. Go ahead. And then it obviously makes Whitney feel terrible. Anybody would. And maybe it also gets her a little bit flustered. I don't think she's unintelligent. I really don't. And she's making a lot of sense right now. I'm totally with her on this in this conversation. But I think their relationship dynamic is always going to be that Heather's quicker, maybe, than Whitney, and Heather's used to winning every argument. And when she feels like she might not be winning, I think she gets super uncomfortable. And then she gets snarky and passive-aggressive. Whitney just says, I just asked you 5 times to hear me. Heather, go ahead, I'm listening. Whitney, you don't hear me or support me. Okay, Whitney, you need to say what the thing is now. I mean, this is frustrating. So Heather goes, I don't support you? What? When you were saying a rumor that I never signed up for? Okay, I'm confused by her saying signed up for. That's different than a rumor I never heard. Now it sounds like she heard the rumor, she remembers hearing the rumor, but she dismissed it. That to me means a rumor I didn't sign up for. Like, I'm not running with this. That's stupid. She did not a troll. Whitney, I knew you knew the rumor because when we were in LA, you said, I know all this stuff about Lisa. Well, now the CEO of Fun butts in. Whitney, you said that I started a rumor that I never heard either. This conversation goes round and all the way back to what did Whitney say about Heather in the hot tub. Jen, Whitney told us that she was taking a friend break from you. Heather, oh, great news to me. And Jen goes, I thought you talked about it. Heather, absolutely not. And it's bullshit that you would tell your absolute worst enemies in the world that you and I are on a friend break. Whitney, they're not my worst enemies in the world. Now Heather gets to be the victim. I didn't do anything to deserve that. And for me, loyalty is a deal breaker. Deal broken. Angie K, did you really not notice the absence of Whitney in your life? And Heather goes, of course I did. I noticed it every single minute. And, Jen wants to burn Whitney to the ground. Now she says, when we were in the hot tub, Whitney said, I didn't give you guys a chance. Like, I didn't get to know you because I just did what Heather told me. Now, I'm sure she's mostly referring to Lisa. But because Jen is saying it and Jen said Heather chooses to pick that part of it. And she goes, but I'm a ride or die with Jen. So that makes no sense. And Whitney goes, exactly. That's what I'm saying. I'd be like, Heather, you give Jen so many chances and you've been in way more fights than I have with you. So when you show Jen more loyalty, it hurts me. And Jen goes, I get it. Oh, do you, Jen? Now what? Now you're on Whitney's side? What is going on here? Heather tells Whitney, my love for you is way more powerful than any of this bullshit that you're trying to stir up. Okay, that's interesting. That makes Heather look benevolent. And it also points out that she thinks that Whitney is just stirring up bullshit. So Whitney goes, see, that right there, it's not bullshit to me. And that's why I said I'm taking a friend break. Our issues were not that deep that we couldn't still have a conversation. And so she's up on her feet. She's very upset, Whitney. And Heather goes, you made it very deep right now. Just say what you told everybody else but me. Whitney, you're doing it right now. And Heather goes, then say it. If you told me 1,000,000 times, it should be easy for you to say it one more time. Then Heather calms her voice. I'm sorry, I did not hear you. I'm also sorry that you have hated Lisa until this very moment. There we go. That's what Heather does. I'm also sorry that you hated Lisa until this very moment. Yeah, okay. Thank God Lisa knows exactly Heather's MO. And she said, don't say that, Heather. That's where you need to stop. Why is it bad that Whitney and I are having progression? I actually feel reprieve. And Heather goes, because guess what? 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. No one has had more bad things to say about you than Whitney Rose. What goes on for way too long now is just this back and forth between Whitney and Heather, and nobody's really saying anything. You know, Heather gets real quiet and gives Whitney the opportunity to speak, and then Whitney starts to say something that makes Heather get mad, and Heather interrupts and gets loud again, and oh my God, it's exhausting. And it's sad, but also just it's too much. And everyone realizes this isn't going anywhere. So they just kind of stop it. They just table it. And they're like, let's go to the club. Everything's still being probably worse than it's ever been between Whitney and Heather. But we're going to the club. Also, you guys, this is a supersized episode. And I'm exhausted. All right, so after the club, there was something, Heather and Jen, they were wondering where Lisa was, and then they found her on the dance floor with Whitney, and they're like, oh, well, she clearly chose her camp. So the ladies get back to the house. I don't think they took the same vans because clearly the Whitney, Lisa, Dana group, maybe Angie K, that group got home first. And Heather and Jen and the CEO of Fun, how she ended up in that group, I don't know. They come stumbling in later, and there's already there's a pizza box on the front porch, and then either they trip and knock over a glass or drop a glass, but now there's shattered glass on the front cement, and these ladies have their shoes off, and yeah, I can only imagine that Angie K is going to be on her hands and knees scrubbing that filth tomorrow, because they trashed her friend's house. Anyway, now we see the Chiron tells us it's 2:25 a.m. Lisa calls the robot. Heather and Jen are pulling their tops down and chest bumping each other. Now they're by the pool with the CEO. Heather's chanting, "Show your tits, show your tits." And Angie K appears from above, just her head leaning over, I don't know, maybe it's a private balcony in her primary suite. And she leans over and she says, "Heather, I've never seen this side of you." Then she takes a picture of them, no doubt to blackmail them in the future, or more probably just to make herself more relevant by posting it on her Instagram. I don't know. I don't follow Angie K on Instagram. Side note, I'm like, where did Heather get that bouquet of white roses? No, that's her Marilyn wig. Meanwhile, Whitney and Lisa are, saying goodnight to each other. They're turning in. 3 a.m. party in Angie K's room? It's Jen, Heather, and you guessed it, the CEO of fun. She really is trying to be fun, isn't she? Because this does not... Don't you feel like the old Meredith would have been in bed several hours ago? Okay, now there's just like a lot of ladies walking around through the house. It's 3:24. We're seeing the timestamp. It's dark. People are just, I don't know. It's weird. Then the music gets scary. Heather gets to her room at approximately 3:28 a.m. We see her lock the door, and then she's turning off the lights, I think. At 4:50 a.m., somebody is rattling her door handle. Heather opens the door, and the screen goes black. Then we get 7 hours later. It's the next morning. We see a text from Heather to Meredith. It says, "Meredith, can you come to my room right now?" At 11:34 a.m., Meredith enters Heather's room. She's like, "What's going on, Heather? Please come here. Sit down, sit down." She's in the room with Jen. Jen is there. And she's wearing sunglasses. Meredith, "You guys are scaring me. What's happening?" Heather pulls off her sunglasses, and yes, her left eye is swollen shut. Meredith is in shock. Heather also shows what looks like scratches on her arm. And then we get to be continued. Oh my God, I'm so mad for several reasons. One, let me just make a quick observation that Heather has managed to put false eyelashes on the swollen shut eye. So that's kind of funny. I'm frustrated because this was teased so many times now, Heather with the big swollen eye. And I finally thought it was going to happen in this episode, which, I mean, I guess it happened, but it was so at the very, very end. And then they're not revealing what happened to us until next week. It just kind of makes me mad, but mostly because I am not going to be here next week. This episode airs on the 21st of December, and we celebrate Christmas. My daughter's coming into town. We're going to be doing stuff with her, and I'm not watching TV. I know you guys will find out on your own what happened, but I am going to say I have two possible guesses as to what happened. You have the worst case scenario and the best case scenario. And by worst, I mean the most boring and probably the most predictable and most likely. And that is Heather drunk, and it was an accident. She fell, she tripped over something and banged her eye, The scratching, I don't know. That's more like a fall in the bushes a la Luann de Lesseps. Maybe there's bushes. Not sure. Yeah, I mean, this is what I think is most likely. Couple reasons. One, someone trying the door handle at 4:50. That seems really scary. And of course, they had the music to go along with it to make you think, oh no, someone's breaking in. If you guys watched the episode, you might have caught this earlier. Heather says, "Come sleep in my room tonight," to Jen. I have a feeling that they went to take showers and then she came. Who knows? I mean, it's a long time later. Maybe Jen fell asleep and then just woke up and wandered over to Heather's room. If you notice how quickly Heather answers the door after you hear the jiggling at the door handle, Heather immediately goes over and opens the door. So this is not what you would do if you're not expecting somebody to come over and your door handle is jiggling at 4:50 in the morning. Heather looks like maybe she just got out of the shower. She's clearly awake and alert enough. And so I think there was texting back and forth. Jen probably said, I'm on my way over now. Heather just went to let her in. Okay, that is the most likely explanation. And I would bet money that that's what's going to end up happening. That's what I call the worst case scenario because it's the most boring. Best case scenario is that probably Whitney came over. It's still possible that Whitney said something like, are you still awake? I can't sleep. We need to talk. And Heather was expecting her. Again, this is best case scenario, not what I think really happened. And somehow that turned into like Whitney punching her. This feels, even as I'm saying it's the best we can hope for. And it still sounds very, very implausible. So I'm not going to lose any sleep over what happened to Heather's eye. I hope you guys don't either. And I'm sorry I'm not going to be here next week to tell you what happened. But yeah, I will talk about it 2 weeks from now and how dumb it probably is. Anyway, you guys, I hope you have so much fun with friends and family for the holidays, no matter what holiday you celebrate. And for those of you who are having a hard time this time of year, and it's a lot of us. A lot of us have lost loved ones. A lot of us are alone. And all of the things that make everybody else happy, the dumb Christmas movies, right? The Christmas music playing when you walk into the grocery store, the festive displays, the window decorations, the buzz in the air, all of the things that energize people are the same things that can be painful reminders to people that have lost someone or are alone for the holidays. And so this is just from me to you guys right now. I love you. I'm hugging you. I'm with you in spirit. You're going to get through it. It's going to be over. It truly is just another day. Spend it in ways that feel good to you. Do something fun for you. The book you've been waiting for at the library, go buy it. Splurge on going to a coffee shop or a tea shop. Take your book with you. Get energy from other people. Go for walks, binge that show that everybody's been talking about, nurture yourself. Everybody deserves that. When's the last time you took a bath? I've been really trying to incorporate that, like for the first time ever. So bougie. I have a bathroom that has a separate bathtub than the shower. And I've just been splurging by taking bath like once a week. That's my time to watch Sister Wives. I know, it's so dumb. Or a Christmas movie, because nobody in my life likes them except me. Go to Lush, get some really cool bath bombs. This is your day. Treat yourself, have fun, do whatever makes you happy. Those are all things that make me happy. But you know you. If you're athletic, go do something athletic. I can't imagine that being fun, but go ahead. No, I just want you to know that this good energy that we feel this time of year, it's for everybody. You're not excluded. It's for everybody. We all get to feel this. Okay, and finally, before I go, if you are shopping at Amazon, please consider using one of the links below. Underneath this video, you will see a description, the word more. Click on that. You might have to click on more again. And when you see my links to Amazon products, click on any one that you want. Takes you to Amazon. You don't have to purchase that product. Then go ahead and just type in whatever you were looking for. And anything that's in your cart that you actually purchase, I will get a credit for any qualifying purchases. So that helps me a lot. I know you guys have been doing it because I got a statement from Amazon. And I think I'm getting like $60 or something for this next payment, which is crazy to me. And I love that you guys are doing this. And I love that you're doing it for me. I appreciate it so, so much. As always, if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, please consider doing so. And if you would like to be notified every time I have a new video come out, then please click on the bell icon. That's it for me. I love you guys. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, and I will see you next time.